come what may, I'm headed down the right path. I feel so brave, my head held high and I'm showing class. Dreams ignited, every day I truly give my best. I'm thriving excitedly to be the very best version of myself. I'm so bold and I'm so brilliant. I feel amazing, I feel so resilient. I'm so bold and I'm so brilliant. I feel so amazing, I feel so resilient.
Welcome to the Chundria Brownlow Show. I'm your host, Dr. Chundria Brownlow, and I highlight bold stories that move us forward. Today's episode brings together two incredible women who are making a powerful impact in their fields. First, we'll hear from Jennifer Allen, a nationally recognized wedding officiant and entrepreneur. You've seen her on Love is Blind and even officiating the star-studded wedding of Debrat and Judy. Jennifer has built Just Elope into a brand known for creating unforgettable ceremonies that celebrate love in the most authentic way. And later in the show, we'll be joined by Dr. Shamarah J. Hutchins, also known as the Mindologist. She is a clinical psychologist, transformational speaker, and author of the HERology Trilogy. With her newest book, Mindset Matters, she's helping women of color heal, thrive, and show up authentically in every area of their lives. Today, it's going to be a conversation full of love, purpose, and empowerment, so please stay with us today. All right, Jennifer Allen, welcome to the Chundria Show. How are you today?
I'm doing good. Thank you so much for having me on today.
Yes, you are doing good, and we're going to talk about how good you're doing and all the amazing work that you're doing in such a meaningful way. Let's start at the beginning. I'm curious of what inspired you to become a wedding officiant. I mean, you've had great success, but let's just go back to the history of Jennifer Allen and how this how did this company form?
Awesome. So back in 2010, my then boyfriend proposed, and which is now my husband. And so he proposed and he was leaving for deployment. And so he had 5 days before he was leaving when he asked me to marry him. And about 3 days before he left, he said, you know, we should get married before I leave. And I'm like, why would we do that? And he said, because if something was to happen to me, you know, legally you are entitled to nothing. You know, you are just my, you know, girlfriend or, you know, fiance, but that holds no weight. And so I immediately am like, well, what do you think is going to happen? So I'm like, why are we even talking about this? And so we decided, sure, let's get married. Well, I started scrambling, trying to start emailing vendors, trying to find people. No one was getting back to me. I'm trying to piece this together in such a short amount of time and explain, like, we only need this little window, somebody just for a small amount of time. And it just wasn't happening. So we were like, we're either going to have to go to Vegas or we're going to go to City Hall. And I did not want to go to City Hall. And honestly, we could not afford to go to Vegas. So I don't even know why I thought that was an option, because realistically, it was not an option. And we ended up at City Hall. And so we got married the day he left for deployment. And it was super sad. And I'm like, why in the world did I do this? And it was a Tuesday. The only people that were able to come was my mom and my 6-year-old niece. And that's who signed our marriage license. And he left. And while he was gone, I was supposed to start planning this over-the-top epic wedding. And I quickly realized that my definition of like beautiful and life-changing was very expensive. And our finances at the time just did not align with what I wanted for my vision. And it was really hard to justify the expense because those rose-colored glasses were removed when you get engaged and you're planning and you're like, oh my God, we're going to get married. We're going to become what? We were already married. So I didn't have that same level of excitement. And long story short, he came home from deployment. We ended up having our first baby. When he was 10 months, we ended up getting pregnant with our second baby. And I'm still trying to like, oh, we can do something for lucky number 5. We can do that. And I'm like, girl, you have 2 kids in daycare. Let it go. And so I decided, you know what, in 2017, I said, I want to start a business where other couples, if they need to get married at the last minute or they just want something small and they don't have to, you know, go to all these different vendors to figure out, how to put something intimate together, I want to start that. And Just Elope was born in February of 2017. We married our first couple. And that first year, we married 8 couples that first year. And we are on our way to, I want to say if we're not at 600, we're just shy of that at this point.
Yeah. I was just about to ask how many couples you've married to date. And so 600 is absolutely impressive and dynamic for a company that you started in 2017. My goodness.
Yeah.
So out of all those ceremonies that you've performed, is there one that still makes you smile when you think about it?
It does. It does. I think that my top 2 are, we had a couple who they were young, they were in love, they didn't really have a lot, and it just reminded me of the 2 of us that they just wanted each other. They just wanted forever, and to be able to give them that, and for them to have the response of being like, we would have just went to City Hall if this didn't, if you didn't have this. And it just reminded me of like why we started. Every time somebody says that. The second wedding that always stands out to me is, I had a couple, and she was such a pleasure to work with, asking all the right questions, really laid back, super chill. And 2 days before her wedding, she calls me and she's like, "Oh, I forgot to tell you that my dad is going to walk me down the aisle." And I said, "Oh, okay," because the questionnaire that I send out is like, "Oh, are you being walked down the aisle by anybody? Are you having a bridal party?" Because we do have like luxury packages. And so I like to be able to find people and call them by their name, And so she's like, "Oh, I forgot to tell you that my dad is going to walk me down the aisle." So she's on my phone and she's on speakerphone. And so I said, "Okay, yeah." And I said, "Well, what is your dad's name?" And she said, "Jerry." And I said, "Okay, great, thank you." And so I write her name down. We go on about our business. And so I'm talking to my team. I'm like, "Hey, this is the wedding we have tomorrow, blah, 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 blah." And so my husband walks past the door and he was like, "What's her last name?" And I'm like, "Who?" Because he never asks about like the individual like couples. He'll say, do you have a wedding today or that sort of thing. And he said, "What's her last name?" And I said, "It's Rice." And so he was like, "And what's her dad's name?" I said, "Jerry." And he was like as in Jerry Rice, NFL Hall of Famer Jerry Rice? And I'm like, I guess, I don't know. Because I don't know, anything about these people. Everybody is treated the exact same with the white glove service. Like, it doesn't matter who you are or what you spend. Like, you are treated as you should be. And so he was like, "Google her." And I'm like, "Okay." He's like, "Jennifer, that's Jerry Rice's daughter." And he's like, "Jerry Rice is going to be at the wedding tomorrow." And I'm like, "Okay, that's fine." We get there, and lo and behold, it's Jerry Rice. I'm like, that is crazy to me, because it's just another example of, we provided this service for people that it doesn't matter your social standing, your financial, standing, that everybody's reasoning for wanting to have an elopement or micro wedding is different. For some people, it's financial. In their case, they were launching a brand new product, which is what we now know as Goat Fuel energy drink that you can buy at any 7-Eleven or anywhere else. And they just didn't have the time to plan a wedding. And she used every vendor that I recommended that is in our little welcome packet, from the dress to the makeup. I mean, literally just everybody down. And so it just was a firm reminder that it doesn't matter where people are, what they can afford. She could have had a over-the-top luxurious wedding. Her dad's a freaking millionaire, right? And so, but that wasn't what she wanted. And I often remind couples that this isn't anything that you should be ashamed of, that you eloped or had a micro wedding, because we make sure that it's beautiful.
And I think I think people need to hear that, because that's an important caveat to say, like, just because it's a micro wedding doesn't mean it's a meaningful wedding or a memorable wedding or a beautiful wedding. People aren't going to have a good time. You're not going to cherish this day forever, you know. So it's like a apples to oranges kind of thing, you know. And I think a lot of people envision this grandiose thing, which I kind of blame, you know. I kind of blame 1920s advertising, you know.
Yes.
because they were trying to sell jewelry and all that, you know, back in the 20s, 30s, 40s, and so it was kind of like, you know, like even when they started things like how much a ring should cost, you know, it should be
3 months. 3 months salary is what you should spend on a ring. Is what they have told people, and that's kind of stuck with them. And I disagree with that. I think that your expectation, you should know what your partner can and cannot afford, right? And so if y'all are living paycheck to paycheck, how long would it take them to save up 3 months full salary to buy you a ring? You know, the ring I have now is not the ring my husband proposed to me with 15 years ago. I mean, I've been upgraded twice. That's life, right? Like, things, as you progress, you get more luxurious things if that's something that you want. And to kind of judge somebody for where they are in this moment because they don't spend 3 months salary on a ring. I always tell people I would never expect somebody to get something for me that I could not get for myself. Could I save up 3 months salary to buy my husband his wedding ring? Could I save up 3 months salary to buy myself a ring? And what would that look like? So how can you judge somebody for something that you can't even do for yourself?
What I love about this story is because, you know, I love the history of it. I love how, you know, you took a little bit of chaos from your own experience. You know, you had your doubts about a city hall wedding, but you were like, you know, you're more important. The reason behind this is more important than waiting, because the only alternative would have been to let them go without you, you know, or to hold off. Like, I don't want to get married until, which speaks volumes about the relationship sometimes and what you're conveying to your partner as well. You know, and I know it was an underwhelming experience that you have just taken and made from the moment you started planning and being real with yourself, but to grow a business out of it, I think it's just so impactful. I mean, you've interviewed, I mean, you've had a wedding, you had a client as Jerry Rice's own daughter, which is great. And I know you've had some other high profile weddings as well. Netflix Love is Blind, which I remember seeing you on there watching the show, and I'm like, I watched that, you know. And then, that was fun. You know, then DeBrad and Judy. And so it's just like you've had these. And what I love about you is that you treat everybody, like you said, everybody gets the white glove service. You know, everybody gets outstanding service. You're not going to get better service because you're high profile, or you're not going to get, you know, much poor service because you're not, you know. Because
I'm charging the same, you know, because I'm charging the same amount of money. That whole, because somebody's a celebrity, they don't do, I sent my invoice to Judy. She happily paid it. Her planner, Ellie, took care of it, who is amazing. Y'all have never had the opportunity to experience a wedding from Ellie, like, you are missing out wholeheartedly. But literally, everybody's the same to me because I charge everybody the exact same amount of money. I'm not upcharging you because you're a celebrity. I'm not giving you a discount because you're a celebrity. I'm not, you know, I feel like our pricing is definitely aligned with the experience that I have and that my team has, and that what we have to show for it, while still maintaining that, like, I don't want to say mom and pop shop, but being realistic to, okay, we always want to make sure that we have packages that no matter what, like, you could kind of figure this one out. Like, you can kind of afford this one, you know, no matter what. So we always want to keep a lower tier package for couples, so that no matter what, our services are accessible to everybody.
What an inspiring conversation with Jennifer Allen, who reminds us that every couple deserves a ceremony that reflects their true love story. And her work is a beautiful reminder of how passion and purpose can create moments that last a lifetime. Now we're shifting gears to mental wellness and mindset with Dr. Shamarah J. Hutchins. And she's helping women reframe their lives, reclaim their peace, and embrace self-mastery. Let's dive into her journey and the wisdom behind her newest book, Mindset Matters. All right, Dr. Shamarah J. Hutchins, welcome to the Chundria Show. How are you today?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
Of course, of course. Clinical psychologist, transformational speaker, and you're also a mindset architect, aka the Mindologist, right? You wear the hats, you wear them well. What do those titles mean to you?
Man, those titles just combine my whole life. So I always think about life like holistically. And so how it all comes into one. So the mindologist is just me bringing, that clinical psychology together, the study of the mind, and how I just transform myself as a person needing to control my mindset and understanding what's in my control and not my control, and just how I just all combine it together within who I am as a person.
I love that. And I love that you're not only have you studied the mind, but you have an affinity for serving others and helping us become better versions of ourselves, and that starts with the mind, like how we move, the choices we make, all of that stems to our thinking and our minds. So you have a mindset t-shirt on today. Mindset matters. Where does that affinity for serving others stem from? Was it your grandmother that raised you, or was it from something else?
It was my grandmother who raised me for the first part. She is always selfless, as we're really big on family. She really told us no matter what, our family is our core, and she is our, person who is the glue that holds us all together. So as I was growing up, I knew that I wanted to help people. I used to watch the Cosby Show, and I was like, I'm going to be a doctor. I don't care. I'm going to be a doctor. And back then, all I knew was medical doctors. And so I've always been the person in my family to help others, no matter what it was, how it was. I figured out a way. And so that brings me joy. Seeing other people happy makes me happy. And so I believe that's my core value, along with family, but also helping others is one of them.
I love that so much, and I appreciate that on behalf of the planet, because you could just go on through life and just focus on yourself, but you've, made it your personal mission to serve others. Now, you've written a book, The HERology of a Woman. Is that correct? Okay. And it's a part of a trilogy. So tell me more about the book and the trilogy and why you decided to do a series.
Okay. And so that comes back to, being that clinical psychologist and just thinking about not only women, minorities in general. And we think about, therapy. We don't want to go to talk to nobody about our problems. And so I'm always thinking outside the box. How can I give people therapy and they not even knowing they had therapy? And so when I was around 19 years old, my pastor told me that I should write a book. And I'm like, I'm only 19. What do I have to give the world? At 19 years old, nothing. And so that kept staying in the back of my mind. And so as I grew older, it always stayed in the back of my mind. I said, you know what? When I turned around 30 something, I said, it's time. And so that's where the HERology of a woman came from. The study of a woman, how to be her, how to navigate, the trauma that happens and work through it. So it's a little bit of like a memoir of who I am, but it also gives tools towards the end of each chapter of people thinking about themselves. If I went through this, what are some of the questions I would ask myself, or can I work through? And so it gives them a little therapy in the midst of it. And so that was that first book was just me knowing who I am, working through my trauma, and being, getting to the point where I go to the second book where it says mindset matters. And so then it says I became, but now as I became, how did I navigate staying and involving? And that's working on my mindset, because I done worked on the trauma, I done worked on all the issues, I done worked on, parent issues, sibling issues, being raped, all of those things I worked on. And so now I'm at the point where, how can I make sure my mindset is set, not only as an entrepreneur, but as a mother, as a friend, as a philanthropist, as, a giver. How can I make sure that, through those hard times, I'm still going to push? And that's where Mindset Matter comes in, giving you the tools to help you think about those, negative thinking, cognitive distortions, stinking thinking, the things that we automatically thinking at the first, I can't do this, imposter syndrome, all those things, helping you work through it. And so that's where the birth of Mindset Matters came from, just continuing becoming to who I am and, where I'm going. And then the third book is Blueprint to Alignment, putting it all together. And so I got my mindset, I got my therapy, and so now here is the blueprint that I can continue to grow and evolve with.
I love the series. I love how jointed they are, and it really is. You're really single-handedly taking the reader on a like a pathway. It's like their own special adventure, which I credit. Therapy is so important, but since, like you said, a lot of people are not like jumping at the opportunity to go to therapy. You may not know who to go to. May not be ready to take the first step, and so I'm really grateful that you presented this trilogy set. I read it said you offer an exploration of self-mastery, mindset shifts, and radical emotional clarity. What's a big takeaway you hope that your reader of all three of the books will have?
The one thing is, some things are out of our control. And so if it's out of our control, then we have to find ways to figure out what can I control in that situation and change it. And so those are the things that we need to focus on, because many things that we get down on ourselves for, the many things that, we put in the forefront was something that we couldn't even, handle. Like, it wasn't even our choice. But just finding the things in life that we can control, and when we can control it, change it so that it won't affect us long term.
Very true. I love that your affinity for women. I know that you're a clinical. You work in the field of medicine and health and wellness, and you take care and you treat everybody. But I just love that these books are presented for the woman. And I know timing is everything when it comes to releasing a book. So why does right now feel like the right moment for this second installment?
So the date of release is August 27th, and so that day is really a hard day for me. That's the day that my uncle passed away. He was in a car accident in 2018. And so never knowing that was the last time that I was going to speak with him, he was like my father. My father was present, but my uncle was the father. And so I was able to do everything with him, and he was like my best friend. We used to, competition. Whoever do it first gets the money. Like, he told me how to be competitive. And so when it came to, releasing of another book, I said I needed something that's going to make me not so much continue to think of that day as a sad day. And just continue to be motivated, because I know that he will be so grateful and so thankful and so excited that I've come so far. And so I said, you know what, the next book will be released on 8/27. My first book was released on my 40th birthday. The second book has a meaning released on my uncle's death date. And so I'm very intentional in finding meaning to, the things that I do.
What I love about you, and it's really special about your uncle, and I know that he's smiling down on you and really proud of you, especially if you had that close relationship. But what I love about you is that you don't just talk the talk, you're actually living what you're saying. You're practicing what you preach, as they say, and you're shifting your own mindset, and I think that is something that we all can glean from, even how we repurpose joy in our lives, and I don't know, that's really touching to me that you chose that date in honor of him, but also in honor of yourself, so then, I know you've worked with a lot of high achievers, people that have experienced burnout, people that struggle setting boundaries, which is where, sometimes the mind can get jumbled in that way. From your perspective, what are patterns that you see often in your line of work, and, and how can we begin to break them? How can we break those burnout patterns?
Acknowledging it. That's the first simple thing. Having that emotion, whatever emotion you're feeling, I always tell people, say it. The more that we say the emotion that we're feeling, the more we can train our brains to understand what that feeling feels like. And so once you start to say it, those emotions of, my stomach is weak, my shoulders hurt, those, somatic feelings will start to engage with that word that you've been saying for it. And so instead of, now your body has learned, I didn't say the word, but now my body knows what that word is. And so now I can take a moment to stop. I need to just stop. And so I always tell people, once you start to learn and feel, it's all about learning who you are. That's what mindset, that's what everything is learning who you are. Once you learn who you are, then you know, I might need to take a break. I might need to take 10 minutes. I might need to take, a vacation at home, like not do anything so that I can regroup. Or I might have to, look at this relationship and say, what boundaries do I need to set up because it is making me sick? And I figure out what that sick was and what it feels like. And so those are the major things that I notice with people. They don't say what the emotions they're feeling. And fine is not an emotion, and okay is not an emotion, and good is not an emotion. So they have to physically say what they're feeling. And I say, look up a feeling chart and find that word that you're feeling right now.
Yeah, and even the negative impact of holding that in. Like if you know you're not doing well, but you choose to say fine, you choose to say I'm okay, you choose to say I'm over it, but you're not, the long-term toil. Can you speak to that? The long-term impact of kind of stifling or pushing those negative emotions down.
Yes. So not acknowledging your emotions and actually working through them can lead to more, damaging aspects such as depression, isolation, such as anxiety, not realizing like, why am I anxious right now? Why am I feeling my ears are ringing? Why am I shaking? Why do I feel like I gotta throw up? That's because some underlying emotions that you've never worked through is coming back. And so those emotions that you never worked through, guess what? Different things that you worked through in the past, if you work through it, your body automatically radars it in the future. Something similar comes and your body automatically knows this is what I need to do. So if you start and not connect with those emotions that you did not work through, it can lead to anxiety, depression, aspects like that. And you're wondering, why am I feeling like this? Because there was something previously you never worked through.
Sure. Now let's shift to emotional wellness, because I feel like that's often overlooked, when we talk about success. In your view, how does emotional wellness play a role in helping women not only heal, but to truly thrive?
You don't what's for you is for you. How you feel, people say stuff and you like, oh, okay, that has nothing to do with me. I'm okay with it. I'm in my lane. I'm gonna keep going. I'm thinking, I'm grateful. Emotional wellness is waking up saying 3 things you're grateful every day, starting off in a positive mindset. Many people ask me like, Shamarah, you're always happy. Why shouldn't I be happy? I'm living, I'm breathing. Like I said, if it's in my control, I'm going to change it. If it's not, I can't do nothing about it. So I'm not going to continue to ponder on it so that I can get a headache, so that I, can be sad all day. I got other things that I can worry about. And there's so many things that I can be grateful for. So emotional wellness is, having that moment of being grateful, taking, having, self-care. Self-care is very, very important. And many people don't realize self-care is not just about getting your hair done as a woman, getting your nails done, going on vacation. You could take 5 minutes to not do anything. 5 minutes to do, just sit there, drink some coffee, drink some tea, drink your favorite juice, something to just sit there in quietness and have a moment for yourself. That is emotional wellness.
Today's episode was filled with powerful insight. Jennifer Allen showed us how following a calling can create meaningful work that touches lives through love. And Dr. Shamarah J. Hutchins reminds us why mindset is everything when it comes to healing and thriving. I want to thank them both for sharing their stories and their expertise on today's show. And to you, our viewers, thank you for joining us.
Come with me, I'm headed down the right path. I feel so brave, my head held high and I'm showing class. Dreams ignited, every day I truly give my